Giyu Tomioka. Giyu Tomioka enters the Infinity Castle alongside Tanjiro, carrying his signature stoic determination and that devastating dead calm technique that makes him so dangerous. The Akaza confrontation pushes Giyu past every limit he thought he had. This isn't just another demon fight. Upper Rank 3 forces Giyu to awaken his Demon Slayer mark, that dangerous power boost that comes with a deadly price. Together with Tanjiro, Giyu faces injuries that would end any normal fighter, but he adapts his fighting style instead of giving up. When his usual techniques stop working, he finds new ways to strike. His water-breathing 11th form, Eset Dead Calm, becomes crucial support as Tanjiro ultimately decapitates Akaza using Hinokami Kagura. Giyu's tactical thinking makes the difference between victory and death as he coordinates these counterattacks. What makes this survival even more impressive is the transition he makes after Akaza falls. Most fighters would need recovery time after that level of punishment. Giyu goes straight into defending against Muzan himself, FMDH, the king of demons who represents every nightmare the Demon Slayer Corps has ever faced. His approach to these impossible fights sets him apart. He doesn't try to overpower his enemies, he flows around their attacks and strikes where they're vulnerable. When his strength starts failing, he shifts his approach to make every movement count. By the time dawn breaks over the castle ruins, Giyu emerges as one of the Unbroken. He survives the Infinity Castle but carries permanent scars and a changed role in the final fight against Muzan. His body bears marks that will never fully heal, but he's still standing when the dust settles. That water-like adaptability becomes his defining trait. While others tried to fight like immovable stones, Giyu survived by staying fluid and finding new paths forward. But not every Hashira could bend without breaking. Some faced enemies that turned their greatest strengths into fatal weaknesses. Mitsuri Kanroji. Mitsuri's fate shows us how even the purest hearts can be crushed by forces beyond their control. The Love Hashira faces off against Nakime, the demon who literally controls the Infinity Castle's shifting architecture. Nakime's blood demon art manipulates doors and rooms, warping the battlefield and making normal combat unreliable. This isn't a straightforward sword fight. Mitsuri has to battle an opponent who can reshape reality itself, turning the very ground beneath her feet into a weapon. Nakime doesn't just throw punches or slash with claws. She manipulates the entire castle like a massive puzzle box, creating traps and hazards that appear from nowhere. Picture trying to fight someone who can move the walls around you while you're swinging your sword. That's exactly what Mitsuri faces. Every step becomes dangerous because the floor might suddenly drop away or spike upward without warning. Her relentless drive and protective instincts push her forward even as Nakime's geometric maze becomes increasingly brutal and disorienting. Mitsuri's incredible flexibility, which normally gives her advantages in combat, can adapt to an environment that constantly changes its rules. Her whip-like sword techniques lose effectiveness when the space around her keeps shifting. The castle's shifting walls and floors create pressure that even Mitsuri's incredible flexibility and strength can't overcome. Nakime's door-based attacks create confusion that breaks down Mitsuri's usual combat rhythm. She can't predict where threats will come from because the architecture itself becomes hostile. Despite her determination to protect others, the environment itself becomes her enemy in ways no training could prepare her for. Nakime's door manipulation turned the castle itself into a weapon, which is why Mitsuri's usual flow-based techniques were compromised during that encounter. Her protective nature drives her to keep fighting even when the situation becomes hopeless. Mitsuri survives the Nakime fight, but falls to the vanquished category when she dies later in the final Muzan clash, HS. Her loss is one of the biggest Hashira casualties and motivates the survivors. Love wasn't enough to conquer the mathematical precision of Nakime's deadly domain, and courage alone couldn't save her from what came after. Obanai Iguro. Obanai's story proves that sometimes courage and sacrifice aren't enough to change the outcome. The Serpent Hashira joins Mitsuri in the impossible battle against Nakime, bringing his critical combat skills and serpentine fighting style to bear against a demon who controls the castle's architecture. Nakime's blood demon art made openings unpredictable, which forced Obanai to adapt and ultimately to act defensively to cover Mitsuri. His precise strikes, which normally find their targets with deadly accuracy, become worthless when doorways redirect his sword toward empty air or solid walls. Think of trying to hit a target that keeps moving the rules around you. That's what Obanai faces with every swing. His serpent breathing techniques rely on calculated angles and fluid movement patterns, but Nakime's spatial manipulation makes those calculations meaningless. His efforts to protect Mitsuri during the Nakime fight showcase everything admirable about the Hashira Code, LS selflessness in the face of overwhelming odds. Obanai positions himself between threats and his fellow Hashira, absorbing punishment that should be shared among multiple fighters. His tactical awareness keeps him moving to cover Mitsuri's blind spots even as the environment becomes increasingly hostile. The castle's relentless hazards create scenarios where even perfect technique and unwavering determination hit their limits, but Obanai survives the Nakime encounter, awakening his Demon Slayer mark in the process. That power boost becomes crucial when he faces the final battle against Muzan himself. Every precise strike and defensive maneuver buys precious time for others, even as his own chances of survival evaporate. His serpent-like reflexes and newly empowered blade keep him alive longer than most fighters could manage, but even those advantages fade against the King of Demons. Obanai joins the vanquished when he dies in the final Muzan confrontation. He slows Muzan and protects others at the cost of his life, a tactical sacrifice that helped the survivors regroup. But some Hashira face their demons with a different kind of determination, the type that simply refuses to acknowledge defeat. Sanemi Shinazugawa. Sanemi's confrontation with Kokushibo shows what absolute refusal to break looks like. The Wind Hashira gets thrown into the most brutal fight of the entire arc, facing upper rank 1 alongside Gyomei, Muichiro, and Genya in a battle that redefines suffering. Kokushibo's overwhelming power pushes Sanemi to awaken his Demon Slayer mark, but even that boost barely keeps him alive against the relentless assault. This isn't just enhanced strength we're talking about. The mark grants increased speed and power, but it comes with a deadly cost that shortens the user's lifespan. Most fighters would hesitate before crossing that line. His body accumulates wounds that leave him with long-term damage and chronic pain, yet Sanemi keeps finding ways to contribute to the coordinated effort. Each injury would put most people on the ground permanently, but he endures punishment that breaks other Hashira while maintaining enough focus to work with his teammates for strategic attack. What's incredible is how he channels his trademark rage into precise, calculated moves. His anger doesn't make him sloppy or reckless. Instead, it becomes fuel for tactical thinking. Each strike serves a purpose in the larger battle plan, and his Morechi blood creates an unexpected advantage. Its intoxicating effect on Kokushibo disrupts the demon's focus at crucial moments. The guy endures punishment that breaks other Hashira, while maintaining enough focus to coordinate with Gyomei for strategic attacks. Think of a boxer who keeps throwing precise combinations even while taking devastating hits to the head. That's Sanemi's mindset throughout this entire confrontation. Sanemi played a decisive, violent role in the coordinated effort that ended Kokushibo. Even after taking damage that leaves lasting scars, he refuses to stop fighting until the threat is completely eliminated. His body shows the cost of this stubbornness. Permanent marks that will never heal. Reduced mobility in certain joints. Chronic pain that follows him for the rest of his life. Sanemi survives as one of the unbroken. He survives the arc, scarred and changed, and his refusal to yield was pivotal to defeating Kokushibo. His resilience proves that sometimes the fiercest fighters are the ones who simply refuse to quit. But raw determination alone wasn't enough to anchor that impossible fight. It took someone with the tactical mind to turn chaos into strategy. Gyomei Himejima. Gyomei Himejima becomes that tactical anchor, using his stone-breathing techniques and chains to create opportunities for victory that wouldn't exist otherwise. The Stone Hashira transforms the chaotic Kokushibo fight into something manageable through pure strategic thinking. This isn't just about raw power. Gyomei has to outthink upper rank 1 while coordinating with Sanemi and protecting the younger fighters around them. His positioning and timing create windows where others can land critical hits. While Sanemi strikes with rage-fueled precision, Gyomei provides the steady base that makes those attacks possible. His awakened Demon Slayer mark grants him the enhanced abilities needed to restrain Kokushibo, but even that boost comes with the deadly cost of shortened lifespan. Gyomei's stone-breathing techniques and flail and chain weapon create binding opportunities that lock upper rank 1 in place for precious seconds. Those moments accumulate into the advantage that leads to Kokushibo's defeat. The emotional weight of leading younger slayers while bearing the brunt of Kokushibo's assault showcases his incredible mental strength. Gyomei absorbs the heaviest strikes because he knows his body can handle more damage than his teammates. His willingness to take punishment so others can strike demonstrates leadership through pure sacrifice. Gyomei survives the Kokushibo encounter as part of the coordinated effort that brings down upper rank 1. His tactical mind and unshakable resolve prove crucial in one of the arc's most impossible fights. But survival against Kokushibo doesn't guarantee survival against what comes next. During the final confrontation with Muzan himself, Gyomei's luck runs out. The King of Demons represents a level of threat that even the Stone Hashira's defensive mastery can't overcome. Gyomei falls to the vanquished when he dies protecting others in that final battle. His death becomes one of the costliest losses, removing the tactical anchor that held so many desperate fights together. Even the most experienced leaders couldn't shield everyone from the arc's brutal mathematics. Some losses cut deeper because they represented not just skill, but untapped potential. Muichiro Tokito. Muichiro Tokito represents what happens when raw talent meets an impossible opponent. The Mist Hashira, despite being the youngest, steps up to face Kokushibo with prodigy-level skill that made him legendary among demon slayers. Upper Rank 1's overwhelming power creates a scenario where even Muichiro's incredible talent and mist-breathing techniques aren't enough. This kid mastered advanced sword techniques that take most fighters decades to learn. His mist breathing creates visual confusion that normally gives him tactical advantages. But Kokushibo operates on a completely different level, an ancient demon with centuries of combat experience. His coordinated attacks with his fellow Hashira show flashes of what could have been. Muichiro's timing syncs with the other fighters. His mist techniques create openings for strikes, and for brief moments you can see how this team approach might work. He manages to pierce Kokushibo during the fight, landing a critical hit that becomes part of the larger battle strategy. The fight reveals both Muichiro's incredible potential and the harsh reality that talent alone can't bridge centuries of experience gap. Think of a chess prodigy facing a grandmaster who's been playing since before the prodigy was born. Raw skill can only compensate for so much. Muichiro's sacrifice becomes part of the desperate counteroffensive that eventually brings down Upper Rank 1. His death doesn't happen in isolation. It creates opportunities for Genya to consume pieces of Kokushibo's flesh and for the surviving Hashira to press their coordinated assault. His fallen body serves as motivation for the remaining fighters to push harder. What makes this hit harder is knowing that Muichiro represented the future of the Demon Slayer Corps. He was supposed to be the next generation of leadership. His youth and skill suggested decades of potential demon hunting ahead of him. That future gets cut short in one brutal encounter. Muichiro falls to the vanquished. His death became motivation and tactical leverage against Kokushibo, proving that even the brightest prodigies sometimes fuel victory through sacrifice rather than survival. But not every Hashira's influence on this arc required them to be present on the battlefield. Kyojuro Rengoku. Kyojuro Rengoku died on the Mugen train, yet his influence shapes every major decision in the Infinity Castle battles. The Flame Hashira's earlier sacrifice creates a unique situation where his presence grows stronger during the final confrontations. While other Hashira fight for their lives, Rengoku's memory becomes the standard by which Tanjiro and the surviving Slayers measure themselves. His final words about protecting others and never giving up echo through every desperate moment. His unwavering determination becomes the benchmark for courage when facing impossible odds. His sacrifice transforms from a single moment of heroism into an ongoing source of motivation that drives the entire resistance forward. Think of it like a torch that gets passed from fighter to fighter. Each person carrying that flame burns brighter because they remember what Rengoku stood for. The weight of his loss fuels the resolve of his successors, creating a psychological foundation that proves crucial during the darkest moments. When Tanjiro faces overwhelming despair, Rengoku's spirit pushes him forward. When other fighters consider retreat, they remember the Flame Hashira's refusal to back down. What's powerful is how his death becomes a turning point that propels newer generations toward confronting Muzan with absolute determination. His absence on the battlefield somehow makes his presence more significant than if he had survived to fight. Living Hashira can only be in one place at one time. But Rengoku's memory exists everywhere simultaneously, strengthening every fighter who carries his legacy. The psychological impact reaches beyond simple inspiration. His death proves that even the strongest can fall, which paradoxically makes the survivors fight harder. They understand the stakes in ways they couldn't before, experiencing that loss. Rengoku falls to the vanquished, ENT. He died before the Infinity Castle arc even began, but his legacy remains unbroken as his words and example helped fuel the final stand against Muzan. His flame continues burning through others' actions, shaping battle strategies and driving fighters past their breaking points. But influence through memory tells only part of the story. Some warriors made entirely different choices about participation. Tengen Uzui. Tengen Uzui's fate shows what happens when a warrior stays away from the final confrontation. The Sound Hashira is largely absent from the main Infinity Castle melee and does not take a frontline role against Muzan, creating a unique situation where his survival comes through limited participation rather than combat prowess. While his fellow Hashira face death in the castle's corridors, Uzui's absence from the core battles keeps him away from the concentrated danger. Think of it like a chess player who keeps their king away from the center of the board. Sometimes positioning matters more than direct engagement. His limited involvement becomes noteworthy precisely because it highlights how concentrated the arc's focus becomes on the Hashira who do participate in the main fights. Every other pillar gets thrust into life or death situations that test their limits. Uzui avoids the most dangerous encounters entirely. The sources don't detail his specific activities during the main castle battles, suggesting he's removed from the immediate frontline action. No mentions of him in the major demon confrontations. No references to him facing upper ranks. No scenes of him in the final Muzan clash. He stays clear of the deadliest situations. This creates an interesting contrast. The flashy, explosive sound Hashira survives by avoiding the center stage. The guy known for dramatic entrances and over-the-top fighting styles stays away from the spotlight when it becomes most dangerous. His trademark bombastic personality doesn't factor into the final war. His absence from the Infinity Castle's core fights meant he wasn't among the Hashira casualties. While others charge into impossible odds, Uzui sidesteps the entire deadly situation. His positioning couldn't have worked out better for his survival. The irony runs deep here. Uzui built his reputation on being the most theatrical fighter in the core. His whole identity centered on making noise and creating spectacles. But his survival comes through staying quiet during the final battles. Tengen belongs to the Unbroken. He survives this arc, and his survival contrasts the high cost paid by the other Hashira. But survival through absence tells only part of the story. Some Hashira created legacies that outlasted their physical destruction. Shinobu Kocho's confrontation with Upper Rank 2 showcases her poison-based fighting style against a demon with uncanny resistance to her attacks. The Insect Hashira's entire combat approach relies on toxins that weaken and kill demons over time, but Doma's ability to absorb and resist her poison creates a nightmare scenario where her greatest weapon becomes ineffective. Think of a sniper whose bullets bounce off their target. That's what Shinobu faces when her carefully crafted toxins fail to slow down Upper Rank 2 during their initial exchanges. Her ultimate consumption by Doma represents one of the most emotionally intense death scenes in the entire castle sequence. The demon literally devours her body, absorbing her life force and poison simultaneously. This moment hits harder because Shinobu represents hope through scientific innovation rather than brute force. But here's the twist. Her death becomes a strategic sacrifice that enables future victories. Shinobu doesn't just die randomly. She deliberately saturates her body with enough poison to kill demons from the inside out. Her consumption becomes a trap disguised as defeat. The poison coursing through Doma's system from consuming Shinobu weakens him at crucial moments during his subsequent battle with Kanao and Inosuke. Her research creates vulnerabilities that other fighters can exploit. When Doma begins melting from the accumulated toxins, Kanao delivers the decapitating strike with Inosuke's help. Her influence on that victory proves that her tactical innovations survive her physical destruction. The poison-based methods she pioneered continue shaping battles even after she's gone, creating a posthumous impact on demon elimination. Her scientific approach to demon hunting outlives her body. Shinobu dies physically as one of the vanquished, but her poison ensures Doma's eventual defeat. Her scientific legacy kills the killer. Her body is vanquished, her tactics unbroken. Her sacrifice directly led to a major enemy's downfall. Death transforms her from fighter to weapon, proving that sometimes losing the battle can still win the war. The poison that failed to save her life becomes the key to defeating the demon that killed her. When you add up all these individual fates, a clear pattern emerges about what it really took to survive this arc.